And here we are for turntable update number 4. Now this one is a bit bigger, a bit more important, a bit more special. We have, if I can get it into view, a new stylus, the Shure M44-7. Now the reason I chose this cartridge is because they're easy to come by, they're relatively cheap, and the replacement stylus for it is only about half the price of the cartridge. There's so many stylus out there that actually cost virtually the entire price of the cartridge, with say cartridges like the Ortofon 2M Red for example. But just thought this one would be a good cartridge, good upgrade for the one I've got, and it's also the same cartridge as used by Anthony Fantano of the Needle Drop. Yep, been a bit of a super fan. Now here is the new cartridge. It's simply a question of unbolting the existing cartridge, very carefully pulling the wires out, fitting the new cartridge, and then making sure it is lined up correctly. Now I'm not actually going to make a video showing how I do this. As I say, I'm new to turntables. All I will be doing is making a video copying other people's videos. Maybe in a few years when I'm au fait with all things turntable, I'll do some videos explaining how to do things like this. But at the moment I'll do it off video, and you can see the results afterwards. As you can see, the new Shure M44-7 cartridge is now fitted. It was pretty fiddly to fit. There's bolts going down the side of the unit that go through the top of the head shot with little nuts on it, and it's extremely fiddly to fit. I know some of the other cartridge designs actually have the thread in the cartridge itself, and you just put the bolts into it. That would be much easier to fit and align. And the little tiny wires at the back just need to be dealt with something like needle nose pliers like this. You literally just pull them out very carefully and push them into the new cartridge when it's fitted. Now obviously cartridges are one of the big upgrades you can do to the turntable. So is this Shure cartridge better than the original Marantz unit, which had its Toshiba stylus fitted? And the answer is yeah, there's a huge difference. The sound has been taken up a notch, which is very nice. It's a lot more refined. There's more energy, more bounce, more control. So the whole sound is quite different, and say significantly better. Now it's still only a relatively cheap cartridge. It's about £55. In the overall scheme of things for cartridges, that is a small amount of money. And technically speaking, it is actually a cartridge for DJs. One of the slightly odd things about it, it's said in the literature that came with it, the weight for it is between 1 and 3 grams tracking weight, which is a huge variation. Now, just going to show a few other tools which are used to set up, which I have used previously. First of all is electronic scales. Now, I didn't buy these especially for the turntable. I actually use them when I'm making arrows, so I do archery as a sport, and making sure the arrows are the correct weight is very important. But it works okay with the stylus as well. It's very accurate, very fine measurements, and you can get it very precise. A bit clunky. You can get special ones, especially for turntables, same sort of thing, but you know, much more easier and convenient to use. So that's what I use for getting the tracking weight correct. Another tool that I bought is this Analogue Studio cartridge alignment protractor, and you literally pull the stylus across onto this mirrored sort of protractor unit that has a grid pattern on it. You put the stylus in a particular place, and you basically see if it's aligned up square. You just do it by eye, but it gives a good idea. It's very cheap components. You do it on the outside edge, then you move it in, and you do it again there. So I'm not going to show in detail, but it's just to check to see that it's lined up. And you do it in 2 places because it's quite easy to seem that you have it lined up in one place, and you put it into the other, and it's actually slightly out. So it's a cheap tool, and certainly very effective. Now the other tool that I bought is this Ortofon spirit level. It's a round bubble level, and you literally put it on the turntable to see if it's level or not. And sort of being round, of course, gives you sort of the 360 degrees leveling. Now I've heard that you should put the bubble on the platter rather than on the platform or on the turntable base. As you can see, it's slightly out, and you should really take the mat off and put it directly onto the platter. And as you can see, it's slightly out. Now this is a fantastic piece of kit, very simple, very well made. They're very common with turntables, and I certainly advise anyone to pick them up. Now if I had feet that had adjustable height on them, this would be a very useful tool. If it was sitting on a hi-fi base that had adjustable feet so they could alter the height, this would be a very useful tool. Currently I don't, and it is therefore pretty pointless, except for proving that my surface that this is sitting on isn't flat. And what we can learn from this turntable update is simply that if you replace the cartridge with a more upmarket model, a better model, you'll get an improvement in sound quality, and quite a big improvement in sound quality as well. I'm certainly very pleased with the Shure M44-7 that I've bought here, although it's still a relatively cheap cartridge, coming in at about £55. There's a lot more expensive ones out there, which I'm sure would give an even bigger improvement in sound quality. Although eventually, on a cheap turntable, as you would hit a ceiling where the platter and the arm would be hampering any further improvement that a very expensive cartridge could bring. But I'm sure you could fit something like an Ortofon 2M red or even a 2M blue to something like this, and you'd still be reaping quite big benefits. It's also worth bearing in mind that a lot of cartridges are voiced. They're not particularly neutral, so you need to do a bit of research to sort of find the ones that are likely to give the sort of sound that you want. But I say I'm certainly very pleased with this cartridge. It's also worth bearing in mind that it is worth making sure you have the tools that are necessary to actually fit it before you start, as it makes life so much easier. That's it for this turntable update, and thanks for watching.